The saloon smelled of stale whiskey and desperation, the kind of place where broken men buried their regrets and broken women were traded like poker chips. And into that suffocating air stepped Elijah Kane, a rancher whose boots carried the dust of 10 long miles and whose eyes were shadowed from battles, not fought with bullets but with memory, the kind that clawed at him each night when the prairie went silent. And though he had only come to town for feed and nails, the way fate often did, it twisted his path toward something darker, something that would carve itself into his bones forever. In the corner of the saloon stood a man in a bowler hat, his smile slick as oil, his hand resting possessively on the shoulder of a girl who couldn't have been more than 20. Her dress ripped at the hem, her skin pale, feverish under the lamplight, and her eyes looked like trapped birds fluttering in a cage, desperate for the sky, desperate for escape. But the man yanked her forward, raising his voice above the piano. $1, gentlemen, that's all it takes. Just $1 for this fine piece. This poor thing ain't good for much, but she keep you warm enough through the night. And the room burst with laughter sharp enough to slice through flesh. Men tossing coins, mocking, jeering, but none of them stepping forward, because even in a world that thrived on cruelty, there was something in the way she trembled that unsettled them, like buying her would curse a man's soul. And that was when Elijah, jaw tightening, stepped closer, his voice steady as he dropped a single, silver dollar onto the table with a clang that silenced the room. The bowler-hatted man grinning wide as he shoved the girl toward him. She's yours, cowboy, no returns, no complaints. But as Elijah caught her by the arms, steadying her frail body against him, he heard the faintest whisper escape her cracked lips, a whisper that did not belong in a place of deals and whiskey, a whisper that carried the raw plea of someone already halfway to the grave. Please, just make it quick, she begged, her eyes not even daring to meet his. And Elijah felt the air leave his lungs as though she had struck him with a blade, because what she thought he had bought her for was not life, not freedom, but mercy through death. And in that moment the room tilted, every mocking laugh, every coin clink echoing like thunder. And Elijah Kane, who had buried a wife from cholera, who had held his little sister's hand, until raiders ripped her away, froze in horror. Death was kinder than breath, and with the girl sagging in his arms, this was no transaction, no saloon joke. This was fate placing into his hands the fragile weight of a life already shattered. And as he carried her out past the swinging doors, silence trailed him. The men watching with a mix of pity and relief that it wasn't them. The storm outside breaking at last with a drizzle that tapped against his hat brim. And Elijah mounted his horse with her cradled before him, feeling how thin she was, how heat burned beneath her skin like fever fire. And though he didn't know her name, didn't know the devils who had put her up for sale, he knew one thing: he would not be the monster she thought him to be. He would not make it quick. He would not add her to the ghosts that already haunted him, but instead he would fight, tooth and nail, bullet and blood, to give her a chance to live. And so he rode out of town into the night, the lantern glow fading behind him, the prairie stretching wide and merciless, and the whisper of her plea, "Just make it quick," echoed in his ears, like a curse he had to undo. And as the rain came harder, washing dust from the earth, Elijah Kane's story tangled forever with hers, a story not of purchase but of redemption, a story of how $1 silver bought, not a night of shame but a reckoning that would set the West ablaze with gunpowder and truth. And friend, if you've followed me this far into the storm, and felt the weight of that whisper cut through you same as it did through Elijah, then don't let go of the trail now. Hit that subscribe button and stay in the saddle, because this tale has only just begun, and the real darkness, the real horror of what Elijah carried out of that saloon, waits just beyond the horizon. The ride back to Elijah Kane's ranch felt like carrying death in his arms, the girl's head pressed weakly against his chest, her breath shallow and hot with fever. And though the rain had washed the dust from his face, it could not cleanse the weight of her whisper from his soul. Please, just make it quick. Words that clawed at him, demanded an answer he had not yet given. But as the miles passed beneath his horse's hooves, Elijah knew he was no executioner. He was a man bound by ghosts. Yes, but not so far gone that he could deny mercy. And mercy was not death. Mercy was fighting for life, no matter how broken, no matter how far gone. And when at last the ranch house came into sight, its silhouette lonely against the dark prairie. He dismounted quick, lifting her with arms steadier than his heart, carrying her inside where the hearth waited cold, striking a match to chase the shadows back, the fire's glow painting her face in flickering light, revealing the bruises that marred her skin, the hollows of hunger that had carved her cheeks. And Elijah felt fury rise in him, a fire hotter than the one in the hearth, because someone had done this to her. Someone had ground her spirit down until she begged for the end. And he swore then with the same quiet steel he'd once sworn to defend his wife and sister, that whoever had sold her, whoever had broken her, would reckon with him. But first came survival, and he boiled water, tore strips of cloth, coaxed her to drink though her lips trembled, whispering words she could barely hear. "You're safe now, I ain't gonna hurt you," though she flinched at his every touch, eyes darting like a hunted animal, until at last exhaustion pulled her under, and she slept, restless on the cot by the fire. And Elijah sat through the night, his rifle across his lap, his eyes never leaving her, because something in his bones told him the trouble that had delivered her into that saloon was not done, that she was not simply a stray soul blown onto his path, but bait in a game set by devils, who dealt in flesh and despair. And the thought made his gut tighten, remembering her whisper in the saloon, how it hadn't been only fear of him but fear of something beyond him, as if she expected men to follow. And before dawn cracked over the plains, his instincts proved right, for in the silence, between coyote howls came the distant thunder of hooves, faint but growing, riders cutting through the night. And Elijah rose, jaw hard, loading his rifle, glancing at the girl still trembling in her fever dreams. And he knew the truth: whoever had sold her for that single dollar hadn't let go. They had sent her as bait to draw him in, and now they were coming to finish what they started. But Elijah Kane was no fool, no lamb for slaughter. He was a man who had buried too much to let the devils of this world steal another soul under his roof. And when the first rider's shadow broke against the horizon, Elijah took his stand, the West holding its breath for the storm of gunfire and truth about to be unleashed. Because this wasn't just about saving her anymore, it was about reckoning. It was about proving that even in a land built on blood and dust, mercy could still be stronger than cruelty, and life stronger than death. And as the girl stirred, whispering through cracked lips again, "Please, don't let them take me back," Elijah gripped his rifle tight, his voice steady as iron, "over my dead body." And the night lit with the promise of war, a war that would test not only his aim but his soul. And friend, if your heart's pounding now same as Elijah's, if you feel the weight of this fight pressing heavy on your chest, then don't let go of this trail. Hit that subscribe button, stay in the saddle, because the next ride will take us into the very jaws of the darkness that sold her. And only the brave will follow through to see whether mercy or blood wins the night.